Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law on My FM 101.3 with your host, Jay Marston from the Marston Law Group. I'm John Drouin, and we are Money in the Law. Jay's a powerful attorney based out of Holliston. His group, they're global, and we are a small financial planning firm also based out of Holliston. And,
global.
And which connects us to the cable, our cable connection to the world, which is Holliston Cable Access. And that, of course, is run by Christian Bidet. He has a lot of great employees, guys by the name of Lisa Hedrick, Don Cronin, and, of course, Christian's, who is your executive assistant's name is Bruce, right? Bruce
Executive assistant.
Yeah, he's your executive assistant. And, yeah, Bruce has a problem with that. He can call me. But, without Christian, none of this happens. So
No, that's true.
Yeah, so welcome back to Money in the Law. And of course, on Money in the Law, we talk about all things that have to do with, the questions you have about anything that has to do with like legal matters, so particularly estate planning, elder law planning. That's Jay's specialty. And then, of course, we talk about money things. We talk about how to save money.
Areas that combine.
Yep.
Areas that integrate.
And then we see the overlap. We see that crossover, and that's where we come in, and we're able to help you navigate those sometimes choppy waters. And by doing that, really, at the end of the day, our job, and we say this all the time at the house, is that our job is to make people happy. So the only way, and the way we make you happy is we make you feel comfortable about, some of these things you have questions with, and that's Jay's and my job here for you today. So thank you for joining us on this. I think it's a lovely Saturday morning. For many of you know, we tape this on Wednesday, so it's Wednesday right now, the Wednesday before the show, and it is arguably one of the nicest days that I've seen in the history of New England.
Oh my God!
I mean,
the last couple of days have just been lights out.
This is the weather portion of the show where we talk about the weather, but actually, when we talk about the weather, it's more interesting because it'll usually come with an anecdote of something that Jay's done.
Well, no, I mean, look, I don't know how you feel about this, but
I could set my watch to it.
In the last week or so. And it's New England, right? It could be 38 next week, right?
Yep.
I mean, let's all agree to that, right? I mean, it could be, but we've hit this, we've had a nice little consistent run, right? Knock on wood, right? Consistent
Find some
run
wood, not for Micah.
Of 70-ish weather. Today it might be 80-ish weather. I mean,
that's fun.
It's fun, but I mean, it just does something to you. I mean, typical New England, right? Like we went from 48 degrees, 38 degrees. A couple of weeks ago, it was chilly in the morning, right? And then all of a sudden you wake up today, and we've joked about this on the show a million times, and I'll keep saying it. When we get to the point, I call it equilibrium. We get to the point where I feel like the inside and the outside is completely balanced.
Yep.
It's a game changer for me, mentally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it, because you spend so much of your time in New England kind of bracing yourself for that transition from the inside to the outside.
Forget your jacket, right?
That's right. You put your shoulder to the door and you're like, whoa, it's going to be chilly out there. I got to prepare for it. Now, we reached the point where it's like one big happy weather family and it's all the same inside and outside.
That's a great point because you don't know what, when the weather's nice, it's like if I'm inside, I'm outside, and the transition it's the seamless transition as opposed, and when I used to live I spent a little time living in the South, like south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah.
And that we always used to say that, like, people down there don't realize, they just take for granted that and granted, when it gets hot, it's super hot.
It's hot, that's right. Yeah.
But when it's like not like that overheat where you just take for granted, like you can just, if I walk outside and walk inside, they take for granted those really, really nice days because they're one after the other. Like you can spend all day inside watching TV on the most gorgeous day, and guess what? You know what? Tomorrow's probably going to be the same way. So it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Yeah,
That's right. Being a weather person in San Diego, right? Yeah. Tough duty. 85 and sunny every day. Yeah,
it
same
may
thing.
rain someday, not today, but it may rain.
Yep. Yeah. But it's uplifting is what it is.
I have some more uplifting news as well.
Here we go.
Some more well, actually, there was some uplifting. I did see our dear friend Dan Higgins the other day. It's like, I love saying his name. I ran by him yesterday, called him, told him what I thought of him, and
nice.
And then moved on. So just quick shout out to our pal Dan. But some uplifting news is, how about, I wanted to give everybody because they probably tune into us about their COVID-19 update.
Oh, I think we're ground central for a lot of COVID.
Well, and here it is. It's coming to you straight from Money in the Law. how about the COVID, like the progress that we've made in COVID-19?
Good God.
And for all of our loyal listeners and viewers out there, you've kind of watched us. We've all traveled this journey together, and here we are, kind of and again, globally, there's still a lot of issues. There's still a lot of problems, and overseas, there's people are really, really struggling. But as far as the United States is, we've kind of with luck and the grace of God, I think we've kind of put the worst of this behind us right now. And now it's almost like, we're horses and we can see the barn, right? We're almost there. And, there's been at the end of the governor in Massachusetts said that there's going to be some changes, maybe some lifting of some of the COVID restrictions that have happened as long as you're vaccinated. And so I think, Massachusetts in particular, but I think the United States overall has really kind of taken some big steps to get to the point where we're close. We're close. And it's almost like we're close, so don't take your foot off the gas.
Don't drop the ball. Don't drop the ball.
Yeah, because we've said it so
Don't do like Cam Newton did at that game last year where we were like going to win the game and all he did was just not fumble the ball and he fumbled it and then we lost the game. So
it happens. Don't blame the Cam. I mean, it's not like he wasn't.
I love him. I love him.
But that's it. It's like we're nearly there. Don't put your foot on the brake. Like if you're not vaccinated and you have the opportunity to get vaccinated, just do it. Just do it. You know why? Because, Jay and I have been vaccinated, Christian's gotten vaccinated, everybody. And pretty soon, like for those of you, like when it gets lifted, I think money in the law might be maskless. You will get to see these two gorgeous guys. I'm speaking from my partner. He's an attractive man. I feel like I look maybe a little bit better in the mask.
You look all right.
In the mask, right?
The mask helps you.
The mask's not the problem, right?
But can I just highlight something again? Not to say that we were visionary, but when
say it, but I'm gonna.
When this all happened 14 months ago, we talked about this exact issue. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, I'm freaking out! All these crazy cuckoo things are going on." Yes, they are. And here's what the problem is right now in March of 2020. We said the problem right now is nobody knows. We know what the beginning is. This is the beginning, right? Same story. We don't know where the middle is, and we don't know where the end is. And until we have a general sense, we're not going to get it perfect, but until we have a general sense of what that's going to look like, the fog is not going to lift. We're going to be stuck in this cycle of unknowing and this cycle of uncertainty. And then all of a sudden we get to the point where it was like, we think we're going to have a vaccine by the end of the year. That's what the people who make vaccines are telling us.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's potentially the halfway point. And then if the vaccine gets rolled out, and then when they start putting it through trials and they start saying, look, you know what? We think if we can get this thing approved, this is going to roll out December, January. If it rolls out December, January, it might take 4 or 5 months to get some numbers where we get some critical mass. I'm not going to get into the herd immunity thing. We get some critical mass on some vaccinations, and the numbers start to change. And as we've talked about this whole thing, again, the pattern played out the same, right? It was middle, end, beginning, middle, okay, and here we are. And knock on wood again, we're close to it. And everybody, play by the rules, and let's not take our foot off the gas. Let's run through the tape, as they say, right?
Yeah.
let's wrap this thing up and let's get there.
Yep. Finish your play, right?
Yep.
Finish your play.
Yep.
And again, we're nervous. We're nervous mainly for the overseas, like for what's happening overseas, and what the potential of things that could happen overseas, and the whole idea of
variants, all this other stuff.
All those things are real. All those things can actually happen and could throw a monkey wrench in our progress for sure. So again, this is where the vigilance comes in. This is where, hey, you know what? If you're allowed to take your mask off in certain venues because you've been vaccinated, awesome. But if they say, hey, you know what? In these cases, or in this particular situation, like if you're flying on a plane, or if you're going overseas, or if you're in a larger crowd and you need to put a mask on, then keep your mask on. And even if you've been vaccinated,
you don't get to throw them out. You don't get to burn them.
Yeah.
Keep one around just in case. Let's all play by the rules.
And nobody likes it. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to do it. But remember, remember the whole, again, just a COVID review for everybody. The mask not only protects you, but it protects other people.
That's
so, the vaccination, you could potentially have COVID and not have any symptoms because you're immune, but you could potentially be a carrier provided to somebody else. And that's it. Like, what people don't, or people forget is, like, in order for this to go away, everybody's got to not have it anymore.
Yep.
And that's how it stays. It stays because one person still has it, and then they're going to give it to somebody else. And that's how it all started. And with any luck and with any grace of God, it's going to finish. Christian is
like, nobody can hear what you're doing. Nobody can hear what you said. Hold on. He needs some duct tape or whatever.
All right. So now, can you
So
hear
again,
now?
so you're right. If you think that that's
are my important words?
if you think that stock's going to go to 5 million% up, and you're going to, that's fantastic. Good luck, fantastic. That's awesome. Just kidding.
Wait a minute, I can't.
That's not what happened. First of all, we can't say that. We can't say that. First of all, it's a joke.
The SEC crackdown.
That's right. Here they come through the door. Right. That's right.
No, they're coming. They're rappelling down
doors,
off the roof,
windows. They're coming in through everything.
Do.
So good news on the mask front. Finally, you can have weather. You can have Memorial Day. You're going to get together with people.
Memorial Day is
maybe you're going to have a burger unless the Biden administration takes them all away, which is what's going on right now. So you're not going to be allowed to have a burger. You're going to be forced to eat Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat or a Morningstar sausage, and you're going to be stuck with that plant-based alcohol beer that you've been drinking for,
It's funny. So speaking of Beyond Meat, so we had my kids had some friends over the other day who were vegetarians. So I'm like, let me take a crack at making you a veggie burger. Right? I can do this, right? So I looked up a couple recipes, and then I said,
throw it on the same grill next to a big fat steak. They love that. They love when you do that.
I didn't do that. So I made this veggie burger. I kind of combined a few things. And we have a big pile of mulch. It's been in our driveway for several weeks, but there's a big pile of mulch, and it was now termed the mulch burger.
Nice.
Yeah. So it tastes exactly like mulch. So
there you go.
There's something about a burger versus anything that tries to be a burger.
Yeah.
And you're right. So Jay's, I think that's your second favorite holiday is Memorial Day, right? Right, as opposed to your patron saint of the
St. Patrick's Day
of your birthday month.
Yep.
Yeah, so Memorial Day, because that's it, right? That's the kickoff, and we're less than 2 weeks away now, right?
Yeah, we're getting close, and less than 2 weeks away. Speaking of dates on the calendar, a little shout out for Marsden Law. We are doing a presentation, or I should say, I am doing a presentation at a new facility in Framingham called The Branches. If anybody would like some information on attending that event to learn all about what we're calling planning with a purpose. I will be doing that event on June 1st. June 1st.
June.
Branches in Framingham, please give a call to either us or to them to RSVP, and or just check in at our office, 508-858-5324, and reserve your seat. They're going fast.
I bet they are.
And it's going to be a nice little wine and cheese event over at the Branches, a little planning with a purpose. I believe weather permitting, in their outdoor courtyard patio area.
How about that?
And this will be post-mask. So if you want to come and
outside,
you want to see how the other half lives, come on down. Like I said, planning with a purpose. Jay Marsden Law at the Branches in Framingham. We will continue to talk this up until the event.
Is the Branches one of those eclectic, like San Francisco-based like sandwich shops that also serves?
No, this is a
beautiful
assisted living facility, and yep.
There we go.
So you are welcome to come down and see what goes on. Learn about your options. It's all about learning about your options.
Learning about your options. All right, so go there, 6-1 at the Branches. See my partner. Tell it like it is. He'll and of course I'm sure there'll be some kind of some question and answer period at the
Always
end.
Q&A. Welcome to happy to answer any and all questions, no matter how uncomfortable they are.
How much time you got?
That's right.
There you go.
Personal or professional.
Set aside some time.
That's right.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
What's on your mind?
What's now? Is it on me?
No, it doesn't have to be on you.
No, I'm happy to do it.
What are you thinking about? I'll tell you what I'm thinking about, but I don't want to hear what you're thinking about.
All right, so maybe this could dovetail into one another. One of the things that we were talking about that's kind of been a topic in the practice this week is savings and non-IRA savings but savings in a time where we're looking at a market at an all-time high. So people are like, hey, I really want to save. Some people have saved some money during the pandemic just because of their lifestyle has changed. So they're like, hey, so how do I save right now? Do I just dump everything into the market? And
right.
And so we've been kind of making strategies and talking about our overall strategy of how we do it now. It's in an uncertain market, but it's for everybody that's seen it, the stock market has been moving, and it's been moving along. Now, granted, recently we've had a couple of hiccups, and could that result in like an extended correction?
Sure.
Who knows?
Yep.
It certainly could. But so I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of some of the approaches that we use in saving in a market that's high, yet it's still an uncertain time. So,
nice. All right. We're talking about who's your trustee. And
that's
why.
the same thing, right?
Same thing. They dovetail right into each other. Actually, they do kind of dovetail.
They sure do.
As they always
sure
do. Talking about saving it, we're talking about administering it, and who's your trustee and why.
That's a great point. All right, so let's take a quick break. We'll come right back, talk about trustees, talk about savings, and you're here on Money in the Law Saturday morning, enjoying the great weather. Roll down the window, not too much, so you can hear what's going on. And of course, at Hollis and Gable,
I think the quote you would use is "roll down the window and let that wind blow back your hair." Anybody? If you know who that was, email the show.
Email the show,
let us know.
And you'll get a prize. All right, we'll be right back.
And we're back. Money in the Law, MyFM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Christian, he's back there turning all the dials to make sure that one of us sounds really good and the other one sounds like you can't even hear him because he keeps stepping on his microphone cord. That's it. That's how it rolls. That's how he rolls.
Why are we not wireless?
Because you're all excited.
Why are we in this? Why is the ceiling too low? I got the big Bose speaker up there.
I love it.
I got these like 2003 monitors up here.
All right, you take that up with Tom. That's between you and Tom.
I'll talk to Tom.
So two things we're talking about today. We're talking about savings, which I love talking about, especially with the market going bonkers. And we're talking about who's to be or who should be or who could be your trustee.
So I have a question. I have a trustee question.
Ooh, I love it. All right, go ahead.
So this is one of those things where we get this a lot in the practice where we'll advise, hey, listen, your best bet is probably to speak to an estate planning attorney and say and develop with your estate plan a trust could be in order. And we will often prescribe trusts to people and say, this is what you need to talk to your attorney, because what a trust does is a trust is going to it's going to do a whole litany of things.
Sure.
But the biggest thing what I love about trusts, it goes back to our fundamental financial planning strategy, which is Cro-Magnon financial planning. It simplifies things for me.
Yes.
And it makes things clear. And again, when it comes to money, you and I have been doing this for over 20 years. Like when it comes to money and finance, so we've kind of seen a lot.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I still like to dumb it down and make it simple. Everything's got to have a clear purpose. So if I have what a trust allows me to do, let's say I'm saving, and we talk about saving, I'm saving in my trust. What it allows me to do, it allows me to give it a clear, this is what's supposed to happen for what's inside this trust, and there's clear instructions. So the critical aspect of this is who's going to, because the trust is for when I'm gone, right?
Who's going to get that job?
Who's going to be the one to make sure that all of this happens? And then the other thing that my question is who's the person who kind of, because it's one thing to say, yeah, I'll be a trustee, I'll do it, but who coaches them up and tells them, okay, this is exactly what's going to happen? And that's where I feel like there's some disconnect where people could use a little more help.
Yeah, so you bring up a great point. So in our practice, in our firm, we tell all of our clients, the way our clients work, the way we work with our clients, the way our agreement with our client works, is that they're a client of the firm until they are no longer a client of the firm, either because they decide they don't want to be with the firm anymore, they move somewhere to a state that we don't practice, or God forbid something happens to them and they pass away, right? But we feel an obligation to our clients. And when I say we feel an obligation to our clients, what I mean is because somebody is no longer a client of the firm because their estate plan is now being put into play because they're no longer around, we don't want somebody to think, oh my gosh, the people who they've named to wrap these affairs up are kind of out there wandering around in the woods, right? So we make it our practice to say, in our practice, that we offer, or we sort of try to do a handoff, right? And the handoff looks something like either a phone call or a Zoom call or a meeting where the people who get the job, the people who are doing the job as your executor, as your trustee, can come in and we sit down and we say to the prospective executors and trustees, these are your next steps, right? This is what your glide path looks like.
Which is huge.
Right? This is what you have to do. And at the end of that meeting, one of two things happens usually. At the end of the meeting, the person says, you know, Jay, I took great notes. You did a great job explaining this. We got it. We understand exactly what's supposed to happen. I say, fantastic. We shake hands. We part as friends. That's what I tell everybody, right? Or at the end of that meeting, they say, I'm a little bit in the weeds on this. I don't understand what's supposed to happen.
Who do I write my check out to?
Who do I hire? It doesn't. And again, it doesn't have to be us. We'd love it if it is us. But if you took this to any attorney who knows what they're doing and knows how these documents work, but at that point, we say to the trustee or the prospective trustee and the executive, we can help you out. Here's what we can do. Here's what this looks like. And if you want to engage the services of the firm, we will do that. But we feel like we owe that obligation to our clients to do this handoff and say to those people, this is the direction that we have to point you in. Do you need help getting there?
Yeah,
now,
and it's the closure, right?
That's right.
You're bringing or one step closer to closure, because remember, the whole purpose of the estate plan is to move the estate from point A to point B.
That's right.
And you know, when somebody passes away and they've done all, they've put the time in, they've put the thought in, they've paid for this, they've created this estate plan, because what they say, look, this is what I want to see what happens after I'm gone. And there's a whole reason they do that. And so that, you know, that kind of, you know, maneuvering from that point to the actuality of it, that administration of it, I mean, that could be arguably one of the most critical parts.
Well, that's what the whole, I mean, to your point, that's the crescendo, right? That's what the entire thing was put together to do. And now it's how do we get, and by the way, the mechanics of how this works, that's one of the questions that we get the most from either the clients or from the people who are the clients' loved ones and family, and who are going to be potentially stuck with this job, right? And they don't get the concept, because they haven't had to get the concept yet.
They don't know how to do it.
They don't get the concept of how do I take how do I take money that's in a trust and give it to whoever it's supposed to go to. And so again, the concepts aren't like super heavy duty. It's a little clunky, but you have to, your mind has to kind of work that way to say,
here's
look,
a great example. So everybody has had to do this. If you've ever changed banks, right?
Yep.
So let's say I'm moving from bank A to bank B, and I really like this bank. I want to have a local bank, whatever the reason is. And then you have to change all the things that are connected to your bank. And you know, some it's easy, some I can do online, some it's I can make a phone, but others it's clunky, it's more cumbersome. There's different paperwork. You have to get something notarized, but it's not something that you do every day. I mean, unless it's something that you're used to, but most of the time it's like, and so anytime anybody's had to do something that they're not used to doing,
right.
what's the human nature? It's like, it's hard, right?
Oh, you have real resistance to it. Real resistance, yeah.
And you can only imagine. So if you've never administered an estate plan before, if you've never been a trustee and actually had to do the work, and like Jay said, how do I, how do I make this estate? How do I make this account now an estate account? How do I do that?
Right.
What do I have? What's the signatures?
I don't speak the language. What is this? What is this?
What is this magic?
What do you mean an estate account? What does that mean? Why am I getting You know, I'll tell you. It's funny. So the point of the discussion that we're having today is, who do you make the trustee, right? And you can always make the trustee a family member. You can always make it a loved one. You can and this is when there's nobody left. I mean, when we do a joint trust for everybody, this is when two people are around. But I guess the analogy I'm going to make is, we do real estate transactions on the sell side for clients. And years ago, when we first did these transactions, what we used to do is we used to try to coordinate everything. We used to try to, we get the paperwork, we're going to get the paperwork, you're going to find some time to come in the paperwork. I know you work all day. You're
Say
come
paperwork
in
one more time.
Believe me, it's that it's that scenario, right? There's paperwork. And when can you come in, and when can we be available, and when can you swing by, and what's your schedule like, and what's my schedule look like? Well, we changed the way we handled closings a couple of years ago, and so now what we do is we have the paperwork that you have to sign. The thing that you have to sign as the client in a real estate transaction is the deed transferring the property from person A to person B.
That's it.
The person who's buying your property, they want your original signature on the deed, so later somebody doesn't come back and go, I didn't want to do it under power of attorney, and now the house gets caught up in this big lawsuit that these people say, look, I just wanted to buy a house. I didn't want to buy into your estate issues or your family drama, right? So you sign the deed originally, we're good. Then there's all this other ancillary stuff that you're going to sign. So some years back, we started saying to clients, this is how we do closings. You come in, You sign the deed. You sign what's called a limited power of attorney for just this aspect of your life. We're just going to handle all the other paperwork that we can sign on your behalf. And when the dust settles, you're going to get a check, a pretty big check, right? And that's all people care about. Like, I don't care about signing the paper. So we now handle all those closings. We do them that way. You come in whenever you want to come in. It doesn't have to be the day of the closing. It doesn't have to be 2 days before the closing. It can be whenever you have time. You sign the deed, you sign the powers of attorney, and you go away.
And again, and the reason that people can do this is because you're a fiduciary, so you have to.
Our clients trust us. Our clients trust us. They wouldn't work with us if they didn't.
Right? We have to act in their by law, you have to act in their best interest. So it's not like you're gonna pull anything shady. It's not like you're gonna have them do anything that they didn't otherwise, hasn't otherwise been explained to them. Now they may not understand it.
That's right.
They may not really fully grasp like what it means.
And we'll walk them through the transaction. But the point is, at the end of the day,
you're saving them.
They sign a piece of paper and then they said, I want you to handle the rest of this ancillary miscellaneous malarkey, and then just let me know when I get my big check. That's all they care about, right? On the trustee side, what we see is, or what we start to see is the same concept, right? Clients will come in and they'll say, look, I know I could name one of my kids. I know I could name both of my kids. I know I could name my friend, my aunt, my uncle. I could give this job to somebody who doesn't know the job, right? So yes, some people will say, we find real value in hiring you or anybody else. Doesn't have to be us, but hiring a professional trustee who speaks the language, who can deal with all the paperwork and sign everything, and we don't have to coordinate and we don't have to explain. We can get the entire job done, and then it can all be explained after the fact.
Right.
This is how much money we started with. This is how many pieces the money got broken into. These were the costs incurred in doing all the work that we did. And here's your check, and here's your check, and here's your check. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, and So, and as people need to understand, there's a cost for that.
There is.
There's a cost, and a lot of times that's where you get like this initial resistance. They're like, well, wait a minute, I don't want to pay somebody to do this, and they're like, it's, my brother can do this, or my son can do this, or whomever. If I pay him, then I feel like it's kind of money down the tubes. But you think about it. Think about like, so if whoever you name as the trustee. It's not like, most of the time they have a job, right? They have they have their own life that they have to deal with, and this isn't depending upon the size of the estate, depending on like what's entailed and what's involved in incorporated in the trust. This could be extremely time consuming, and even more time consuming because it's something it's not familiar territory. So where something that takes somebody like you or somebody who knows how to change the bank on, or an update, get an estate account, things like that. It's easy, right? It's like this is what we do every day. For somebody like me, who I don't do that, if I'm not used to that, it's going to take me longer. I'm going to have to give it more thought, and that's the kind of thing where, at some point you could say, well, look, if this is going to cost whatever the cost is it going to be worth it to make sure A, that it's done right the first time, right, and B, that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, and at the end of the day, yep, there's a cost involved, but it's also an estate, and there's probably some there's probably some assets to kind of cover that cost, right?
Well, I mean that's the client question, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, when you do this, in a lot of cases, depending on the dynamic, right? And we're not trying to talk somebody into this. I mean, we just think that this is something that's worthy of consideration, right? Yeah. Because to your point, if you've got some family dynamics at work, there's a real opportunity to say, look, I don't even want those dynamics to come into play, right?
Sure.
I'm giving this job to a professional who's going to take care of this job.
And
then they're going to do it at arm's length.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. They're going to do the job. They're going to make sure that the bills get paid. They're going to take care of whatever they're going to take care of. And then they're going to write everybody a bunch of checks. And that's it. And they usually have a process that they're going to follow. Your person that you give the job to doesn't have to invent a process, doesn't have to come up with the process. And in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, they would more than likely engage the services of somebody to help them do this anyway.
Just like you said in the beginning of the show, right? They say, hey, listen, I've never done this before. You did this estate plan. could you help me with this?
That's
and you'd
right.
be like, yeah, here's what it would cost for to hire our firm to help you to kind of do the administration piece on it. And then they're like, okay, let's do it.
Well, at some point, those people say, so yeah, but this is how it works. When somebody hires us to give trustee advice, the trustee does all the legwork, right? I mean, they just hire, like, to your point, well, you got to open up a bank account. Well, what bank do I use? You use whatever bank you want. That's up to you. Well, what bank should I use? Again, you're the trustee. I can't tell. I just know you have to open. So what's that going to look like?
The Bank of Mars.
You're going to go to the bank. They're going to give you a bunch of paperwork, and then you get to fill the paperwork out. They'll help you with it at the bank. I mean, well, can you go to the bank with me? Well, we can, but we charge for that.
Yeah.
Can you call the bank on our behalf? We can. And again, we can do all of those things. We're happy to do all those things. Or you have the option to say, hey, did the bank account get set up? Oh, yeah, actually, I was over at the bank today. I took care of it. Went to a bank that we do all of our business with because we set up trust accounts there all the time. They know us. We go right to the front of the line. We walk in. We see whoever we got to see. We sign up the paperwork. We're good to go. We got a temporary check.
New ones are on the way. Lollipops.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So there's an argument to be made to say to yourself, look, this job has to get done by somebody. I can give the job to somebody who doesn't know the job, who's going to sort of do some on-the-job learning, right? And they're probably going to engage the services of somebody to help them do the job. Or I can just give that person the job and let them do it. And we run into this situation all the time. People will call us up and they'll say, Jay, I didn't get the job as executor, and I'm going to fight for it.
Yeah.
And I say to them, well, before we take the gloves off here, time out. Fighting is fine. We like fighting, but hold on. As long as everything gets done the way it's supposed to get done, you know that your check is not going to be any different than it is if you write it or if your sibling writes it, right?
Your brother that you're mad at.
That's right. That's right. So either way, as long as
although he will do the whole like, here you go.
That's right.
Go.
That's exactly right.
That's right. You get that. Yeah. I mean,
but as long as your check is the check that you should get, whether he writes it or you're putting aside your control issues and your family dynamic issues and all that stuff, at the end of the day, that's what's going to happen, right? So if you want to do it that way, fine. But I'll say to my client, why do you care?
Yeah.
Again, put the control issue aside. Put the mental family dysfunctional baggage aside.
It's easy to say that, though, right? Because
I know.
we talked about money, right? It's like people like see. So if you think if I think I'm going to get ripped off, I think my brother's going to rip me because no matter what the check says, right? What it says is going to be like that's wrong. Like that's there's some there. You know why is it? Why do we? You know because everybody
and that makes my point, which is or you decide I'm not going to put these two at odds. I'm just going to pick a third party, a corporate entity, attorney who's going to handle this. And then these two can't fight because when they get the checks are the same if they're supposed to be the same. And then they can't say, why are you paying yourself? Why did you spend so much time? Why did you go to the bank? Why am I paying for all this? This is where it goes. So there's an argument to be made for it makes sense to consider the alternatives, which might be the best thing I can do is not have somebody I know do this job. Let's get the professionals involved. The outcome is going to be the same. It's going to be better. It's going to get done. I know it's going to get done, and everyone's going to walk away and say, that was a piece of cake. Everyone loves doing nothing and getting money. Yeah. Right? I mean, who doesn't? I mean, this.
That's right.
Everyone loves free money that they feel like this just showed up. So
free money that didn't cause me to have to do anything.
No,
right?
I like free money without have to do anything. Yeah.
What do I have to do? What do I have to do? I just have to actually open an envelope.
I just got to be patient, and I'm going to get a check. I can do that. How much is the check going to be? Ballpark?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm good.
I don't know.
I'm good.
Why don't I take that deal? Yeah.
I know. It's a crazy deal. So before we wrap up and then we'll turn it over to the money side. So again, if you're considering your estate plan and you're considering putting things together for these business-like tasks, give yourself the consideration. Again, you pick who you want to pick. That's what we tell everybody. But worthy of consideration is the idea of picking some type of corporate trustee or a corporate personal representative, corporate executor to kind of take
Takes the emotion out
take
of
the
it.
familial out of it and just kind of make it a business transaction.
That's why Tony Soprano was not named as Uncle Junior's executor.
All those reasons.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's
right. Why estate planning is like the Sopranos. Go ahead.
Sopranos, estate planning with the Sopranos.
That's right.
Yeah, a little different. All right, so we're going to take a quick
break. We'll come back. We'll talk savings.
We'll talk some more. Yeah, we'll talk savings and how you trust your savings and all that good stuff. Right here on Money and Law. Don't go away.
If you can tell me where this coffee came from, you'll get a treat, a guest.
Tell me what haven this came from.
That's right. You'll get a money of the law tchotchke.
Yeah, money, because we get plenty of them.
Yep.
We'll be right back.
And we're back. Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group.
Uno a uno.
John Drohan, Main Effort Financial, located conveniently in the downtown metropolis of
Right across from the
Holliston,
street from one
Massachusetts.
another.
We are a 5-iron from one another.
Yeah.
And we're talking all things savings
Did it work like
in the
that?
market.
Did we set it up like that? Who knows? I think it was more
I
like
don't know. That's
it was more
karma.
fate.
That's karma.
That's
karma.
fate, yeah.
That's karma.
Yeah.
It's the universe talking to us.
Yeah.
Did you ever read Think and Grow Rich?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Phenomenal book. For those of you who haven't read it, great book for the entrepreneurial set out there. Great read. Trying to figure out when I lay that one on my daughters. I'm sure they're going to love that as some phenomenal summer reading per dad, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And
you never know.
I can read this book that Dad gave me from 1934, or I can read, another novel that's
Or I can
actually.
read something on my phone,
Yeah,
which is
that's exactly
far more
right.
interesting.
When I handed it to them, and they said to me, "What is this, Dad? What is this? What is this
Why would
collection
I
of paper
carry
with
this
words and
stupid
letters
thing
on it?"
around?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Oh my God! Is it? Oh, it's gonna get wet. No
Yep,
thanks.
So So we'll dedicate a show to that one of these days.
I like it. I like that idea. All right, so we're transitioning now to the idea of savings, but not so much savings like retirement savings. We've talked about that. So it's almost like retirement savings, like it's a no-brainer. Like save for retirement.
Yes,
save,
always, always.
So, but let's say that you're in a position where you're lucky enough to be able to that you're doing retirement savings, yet you still have some more savings, or maybe you're saving for something that you're going to need or want to use before retirement. So people are like, well, I have, and like I said earlier in the show, we've come across some people who like they've saved some money and like, hey, I really want to save. I want to know what I should do with this money, but I'm nervous about the market. I'm nervous about the market because the market seems like it's an all-time high. And the last thing people want to do is they want to come into the market and buy, get exposed to the market and then have the market correct, have the market go down. And even if they're not selling anything, and even if they're not cashing in on any of their losses, they look at their statement, they say, I invested $100,000. Now my account is worth $82,000. I'm down $18,000. I'm down 18%. Like why is that? And it's just this
Everybody likes to play with house money.
Yeah.
Like once they make a couple of bucks, then they feel better.
Yeah, but but that takes all the wind out of their sails.
Oh yeah.
And that's a very realistic possibility because unlike what many people think, Jay and I have no control over the stock market. Nobody has any control over the stock market.
None.
So
spin wheel spin.
Yeah. So nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, particularly in the short term. And when I say short term, that means like tomorrow for the next 12 months. That's what we consider the short term, like 12 to 18 months from now. Like that's in stock market terms. That's
tomorrow.
Yeah. That's not a long. Even like a year. It's not a long ways
not
away.
All the time. Nope.
So you come in and you say, well, here, I want to invest in the stock market. I want to invest some money. So you invested in, whatever your asset allocation, but you again, anytime you go into the stock market, even if your advisor or your planner, your manager says, well, this is a very low risk, the operational word is risk. Anytime you're in the stock market, you assume risk. What level of risk depends on what your investments are. But as soon as because remember that in any stock market or SEC, anything you've ever seen on the bottom, it says there is no guarantee for any of your gains or losses. There is no guarantee, and you may lose principal, right? There is no guarantee.
Sure.
So the idea of if I'm going to go into the stock market, I am going to assume some risk that goes without question. So people need to understand that. So, but when we're in this situation, we're like, hey, I want to invest, but I don't know if I should. What we try and coach them, and we try and say, look, you have money, and your money, you want to do something with it.
Sure.
You want to achieve a goal with this money, right? And so as soon as we can articulate what it is, the goal, what do you want to achieve with this money? Like what do you want to save for, right? And someone may say, I want to save for, I don't know. Let's say I want to save for a new car. And I'll say, great, that's a great thing to save for. I want to save for a new car, and I'm going to get it in 6 months. So then the first thing I'll say to you is I'll say, look, if you want to use this money in 6 months, putting it into the stock market, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And I'm a market guy. I'm an investment manager. Like that's what I do. But if it were my money and I knew I was gonna use it within 6 months, I wouldn't expose it to the market. Because that risk wouldn't be worth it to me, right? Because I know that I'm going to spend this money. Let's say it's $30,000. I know I'm going to spend this money in 6 months, no matter what. I'm going to buy that new car. You know, all things are the same. So why would I mean, could I make some money in the market? Could I make some money in the stock market, over that 6-month period? Potentially, yeah. But I also could lose that money as well.
Let's look at your example that you just gave. If you invest $100,000 and then you come to you and you say, John, I'm going to probably pull $18,000 out of this to buy a new car in 6 months. Okay, then you invest 100, then you lose 18, and then you still need the 18 to buy the house.
Yeah,
now you're down $36,000 in 6 months. You've lost 35% plus of your portfolio. Because you didn't say, well, let me think this through a little bit.
And that's a realized loss, right? That's an actual loss.
You have locked that loss in.
Yeah,
that's right.
And that's the difference between, so if I invest and the market goes down, the market goes up, on paper, my account value is down. But when I cash out or when I take things out, when I take money out, I'm going to assume a real loss or a real gain. And that's how it works. So the strategy that we use for people, particularly in this higher market, is I say, look, if you have an amount of money, what I like to do is we like to kind of break it up into pieces. And we say, okay, how much of this money are you going to use within the next 12 to 18 months? And if there's $1 that they're going to use 12 to 18 months, and I say, do not put it in the stock market.
Put it on the side.
Yep. Dude, that's not part of our conversation. Because it's all about time. It's all about how much time you're going to be able to expose this to the market and to be able to kind of weather these ups and downs in the market. So then they say, okay, well, I don't need this money in 18 months. I may need it in, 3 years or 3 to 5 years. I'm like, okay, that's good. So how much of this, of what you want to invest do you need for 3 to 5 years? And they'll say, I don't know. Let's say I maybe the answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
So they'll say, I don't know. And I'll say, okay, then if you don't know, that's an answer. So then we'll plan for something that, we'll be more cautious and say, okay, so maybe you may need more of it than you think you might need right now.
Right.
So that investment is going to be something that's not as volatile or not as it won't have as carry as much risk with it. And again, we're not going to go into specifics of what it is, but it won't carry as much risk with it, at least in our minds or at least in the planner's mind, than would be something that you're not going to use for, say, 5 years or more or 10 years or more. So when we look at that, we say, okay, we break it up. We say, okay, this, the first part, let's call it 60%. 60% of what you're going to invest right now, that's going to be for the 3 to 5 year mark, which means that it's not going to have as much market exposure, as much like equity exposure in those first 3 to 5 for as we move forward. And then we say, but the other part, when do you think you're going to use that? And realistically, and if the answer is still I don't know, then we say, well, maybe we put some more with the stuff that we may need sooner rather than later.
Well, you can. So 2 things. We've talked about this on the show before. The first thing we are firm believers in is you got to get that money somewhere.
Yep.
Right. So my assumption is, or our suggestion is that let's get you that brokerage account. Right. My favorite account in the world, right? Let's get you that brokerage account. Why? Because this is where you put your money that's not in your retirement account. You just talked about all that retirement stuff that already
Retirement's a different animal.
That already has a target. That already has a target predicted or pre-planned for it. This is about getting your money into a broker, getting it out of your savings account so you don't blow it somewhere, getting it out of your checking account, get it into your brokerage account, and then you guys can come in and start getting real tactical with it, right?
Yep.
Then you can say, what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, and so once it's clear, and someone may have a very clear purpose. They may say, I want to buy a second home.
Awesome.
And I want to buy a second home. And when do you want to buy this? As soon as my kids are out of school, let's say 5 years. As soon as my kids are out of school, I'm looking at buying a second home in 5 years. And I say, okay, great. Then there's a potential you could use all of them. We use our $100,000 example, right? Yeah. You could use all of this money to buy a second home. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, look, let's not be super aggressive with the majority of it, because worst comes to worst, and then we kind of play, we war game it out and say, all right, worst case scenario, let's say the market drops 50% between now and the next like 3 years, right? So, and again, as we start to get closer, same thing with retirement, as you start to get closer to your goal, you'll start to reduce your risk. You'll reduce your risk exposure. So
or you start really like you start off really conservative. To your example, right? You say,
Yeah.
look, don't look at the market going up 20 and this money's not doing that because it can't.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to do that.
Yeah, but what we will say is this: we'll say, look, if you're going to say the majority of this we're going to invest relatively conservatively, yet we can take a piece of it. There's a piece of it that you can take some chances with.
Yep.
That you can, and we're not saying be speculative or anything like that, but we're saying that you can assume some risk on this because we're gaming out. If let's say let's say you're at the 70% is conservative, 30% is more growth oriented.
Yeah, yeah.
So in that respect, that 30%, the worst case scenario is it all goes to zero. So if it all goes to zero, then we explain, look, if that portfolio, that diversified portfolio that we have goes to zero, again, it's all about how much risk you can stomach.
Yeah.
If that goes to zero, then that means that the entire stock market has really changed.
Yeah, zombies have taken over Wall Street at that point. I mean, that's right.
So, and could that happen? Absolutely. Zombies. I believe in zombies.
Theoretically, absolutely, that could happen.
It could totally happen. So,
Yep.
So we assume that, but then do we think over a time period what's the likelihood of that happening? Right now, we don't think it's likely, right? But at the same time, if we go to we say, look, if that doesn't happen, and let's say that the market performs, it's a flat market, or even if it goes down a little bit, is that going to change your overall glide path? Is that going to change your ability to the initial goal that we set for this?
Right.
Is that going to change your ability to buy that second property? Probably not. Not.
No.
So.
And to your point, the conversation at that point is what means more to you, right? The marginal utility of wealth and hanging on to this money means more than having it grow. Other folks might come in and say, look, John, I'm willing to hang this thing all the way out on the risk spectrum.
Sure.
I'm willing to be as aggressive as possible and try to make as much money I can because I'm going to plow it all into this second property that we want to buy. And if it completely falls apart, I'm willing to assume that risk.
Yeah.
But that's a different animal. That's a totally different approach to what you're suggesting, which is let's figure out a purpose for this money. You guys have said this in the show a million times, right? Invest for a purpose. What's your purpose?
And if you and again, you're looking at you're coming into a market like if you came into the market 14 months ago when the market had dropped 33%, and you're like, hey, now I have a bunch of money to invest, and oh, by the way, it looks like things are starting to pick up, like the country's reacting to the virus. That's a different investment situation than you are coming into a market at on or around an all-time high. So the takeaway here is that you have to be able to understand. You have to be able to talk about and be able to really comprehend what your risk tolerance is.
Right.
And go over the things go over that worst case scenario. And we come into we always talk about this, the idea of risking versus gambling, right? So so risk, and we as defined during from my military experience, risk is something it's something that you can recover from. It's not going to, if it doesn't go your way, if it doesn't work out that way, you're going to have things in place that'll allow you to continue on your mission. It'll continue on your glide path, and your overall goals that you're set out to are not going to. You're still going to be able to do that.
Right,
now,
right.
Gamble is a different animal. Like in your example, let's say somebody says, "Hey, I'm willing to put all $100,000 into stocks, and pick me 5 stocks, right?"
Yep.
And say, and that's a very speculative, aggressive investment, right? So go get them. You see what we can do, and maybe it works out. Maybe they get lucky, and we pick and they perform, and his 100,000 turns into whatever, doubles it, triples it, whatever. Or like you said, the opposite could happen, and that 100,000 turns into $52,000, right? Now, I'd ask that client the question. I go, look, if this happens, right, and you want to buy this house, you're going to be 50% short of what you have, right? Or potentially, you're going to have much less than what you put in. That could change whether or not you can afford to buy this house.
That could change whether you're even able to buy this house.
Exactly,
right?
because
that's a different animal.
Yeah. So then you say, okay, is that really the purpose of this money, right? Because then I'd make the argument. I'd say That's not the purpose. The purpose of this money is you're trying to grow as much money as you can.
Right.
It's not to buy a house. I mean, you may use it to buy a house, but understand that if this doesn't work out, then you potentially are not going to. You're going to need to come up with other money. Your house buying plan is going to have to come from a different source, and maybe you have that.
Bingo. I was just going to say that the answer might be, you know what, John? If I lose half my money in this investment in the next 5 years or 3 years before I buy my house, I have the resources from another location to fill in the backstop here so that we can buy the house. It doesn't affect whether I buy the house or not.
So there
different
you
animals,
go.
different animals.
So that's not a gamble. That's
Right.
a risk, right?
Yep.
I'm willing to assume that risk that if this money does not work the way I want it to, then my plan's still going to go.
Yep.
Now, if that's all the money that he has, and he says, this is what I want to do, and I want to use this money to buy a house, and I want to triple my money in 5 years, then guess what? That's a gamble.
Yep.
Because if in 5 years, if your money hasn't done what you needed it to do in order to buy that house, then then that's a gamble, and you've lost. And now, you're probably not going to be able to buy the house, or if you are going to buy the house, you're going to have to do something. You have to change something dramatically.
That's right. That's right.
And it's not going to be involved with that. So
And that's a big part of the analysis that you guys would take somebody through, which is to say, look, there's a whole bunch of ways that we can attack this. You know, one way is to do this, one way is to do that. And by the way, there's a lot of people who are saying, look, we're comfortable with the risk, John. We get it. And everybody says that until you see it on your statement, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody goes, whoa, 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 nobody told me about this. I mean, this is really going
And you
to
and I
affect
tell
our
people,
ability.
look, like, you know, if this doesn't work out, and we explain it, and this is
Sure.
kind of, now I'll end it with this. You know, if we invest in the market and we say, look, here's where we are now. We're investing for time, right?
Yep.
We're investing for over time. So let's say the S&P is at 3,400 right now, or whatever it is. We say the S&P is at 3,400. We're looking for when the S&P is at like 5,400.
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
is it going to get there? Definitely. I don't know.
Is it a
right?
straight line getting there?
I don't know, but we make the assumption that, you know, because we're market people and investors, and that we think that the market is going to increase. Is it going to get there to 54? I don't know. If it does get there, like Jay said, is it going to be a straight line? That I probably would guarantee. You know, again, I can use the G word.
Right.
That ain't going to be a straight line.
Right.
Now,
right.
could it? Yeah, it could. But has it ever been? No. It's never been in history before. So the odds of it being a straight line is very, 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 very remote.
Yep.
So understanding, like you say, look, we're here and we want to go to this next point. What's going to happen in between? That's the $1 trillion question. I don't know the answer to that.
Right.
But are we really willing to accept that risk? That we think it's going to go that, and we think as long as we're diversified and we invest in good things, and we're smart about our money, and we do our research, and all of all of the legwork that goes into putting together a portfolio, that happens, that there's a good chance, potentially a good chance, that we could get there. Now, nothing's guaranteed, but it could, and if it does, if it does, we have to be willing to kind of, weather the storm to get to that.
That's right. End. That's right. That's right.
And it has to be something that people understand. And we say, look, if we go into the market and we tell them, look, we're going to put, in our example, we're going to put 20% of your money into the market right now. The market could drop 50% tomorrow.
Right.
And if it does, you're not going to like it. But the things that we're buying right now,
that's right.
we think, even if the market pulls them down, we believe, based on our research, based on our understanding of it, we think that they'll recover if and when the market does recover.
That's right. And your whole portfolio is not exposed.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's it.
All right.
I mean, I like talking money with you.
I do.
I mean, because
you
all right. So
we speak the language.
I think you do. I think it's all the time we have, though. All right.
We're good. What nobody saw me was I was trying to write on this. If you were going someplace, it says, "Oh, sir, this is who's the weird guy with the bun." There's your coffee, sir.
Oh,
that's what that was.
Listen, you never know. There may be a date
Whoa,
timestamp
here we go.
on this.
I love it.
We'll
Thank
see.
you, Haley.
We'll see. The pressure's on. All right.
Got it.
We'll see everybody next week on Money and Law, My FM 101.3, Hollis and Cable Access TV. Thank you for joining us.
One more week. Keep your masks.
Yes.
Follow the rules.
We'll see everybody next time.
See you.